Alrighty, guys. Today we are checking out a compilation of all of Jim Cornette's shoot promos for Raw in 1997. This should be a fun one. If you see any weird edits or glitches on the screen, I most likely had to do a anti-copyright thing to make it harder for the WWE goblins to find me. I'm hanging out with the flock today. If you want to hang out with us live on Twitch, you know where to find that. Link is at the bottom of the description. Check out the original upload by clicking the top link. Let's do this.
This is Jim Cornette, and the views that I'm about to express are not necessarily those of anybody else but me, but they ought to be, and as a matter of fact, they probably are. You know, a lot of things in the wrestling world make me cranky these days, especially the way that some talent is treated and some talent is looked at by not only the promoters, but the wrestling fans as well. For example, a man like Arn Anderson, who just had to retire from this sport after giving it his entire life because of an injury that he suffered. A guy like Nature Boy Ric Flair, who in my opinion is one of the greatest talents in the history of this business. Guys like Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, whatever you want to call him, great talents in the WWF or WCW. But who gets a lot of the attention from the wrestling fans especially? Guys like the NWO, the New World Order. You know, all the fans think these guys are so cool and so sweet and so funny. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the NWO was like a bunch of guys meeting out in the backyard in a clubhouse in a tree. They're guys who they got the easiest job in the world. All they have to do is go out there and be themselves. Childish, obnoxious, adolescent guys with a case of severe arrested emotional development and a fixation on trying to act macho. You got a guy like Kevin Nash, 40 years old, trying to act like a teenager. As far as I'm concerned, the biggest no talent in the business. He's got 6 moves, no mobility, and enough time to...
Yo, chill out. I love people like Cornette who they just get a mic and then start fucking cooking. This ran is wicked. I wonder if half of the stuff he comes up with is like pre-written, bro. Mac don't even make no references to my king. Don't make no references to my boy. Just stop it. You know Roman Reigns could fly. I'll beat your ass in the comments. Say, get over. Get over. Nah, Cornette is a demon, bro. He be cooking that one. I like when we have like actual shoot promos though, like someone is going crazy. But I don't like when it comes across like whining though. Unrelated, completely unrelated. Did you guys see the Karrion Kross promo thing? People keep asking me if I've seen the Karrion Kross promo thing. Have you guys seen it? Have you seen the shoot promo? Have you seen it? Have you seen Karrion Kross?
Cover up for some of it. But what he does is he goes around and he manipulates. Kevin Nash had a multi-million-dollar promotional company, the WWF, push him to the moon to make him a star, and then what does he do? He leaves after he gives his word to staying, so by the way, he's a liar too. He leaves and he goes to WCW for a big contract. Why? More on that later. You got a guy like Scott Hall, who's a good wrestler, but good's about it. He's the best of the bunch. But he had the same million-dollar promotional company make him a star after he'd been in this business 10 years without putting 3 asses in a seat. And what does he do? He goes to WCW for a big contract. Why? More on that later. And then you got a guy, 6, 1, 2, 3 kid. His name's Sean Waltman, whatever you want to call him. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the only reason that he's employed is because the other guys think that he's funny when he gets drunk and throws up on himself. He has the distinction, in case you haven't noticed, of being the only guy since this wrestling war got started that was released from a valid contract from one company to go to the other side, which shows you how valuable he is. You know why they're all employed, why they're all in the spot they are today? Because of Eric Bischoff, the boss of WCW, not the NWO. Look at the credits on their pay-per-view if you can get one for free. The idiot's name is on it. He's the boss of WCW. He works for Ted Turner, and he throws a billionaire's money around just like water so that he can have guys that he likes to hang out with. Because even more than being a mark, yeah, for his own face and his own voice, Eric Bischoff is a guy who's a...
Nah, he's saying the terms and shit, bro. Chill out. Does this man have a fucking teleprompter? Like, how do you shoot off the hip like this? I'm impressed every time I see someone go crazy like this. Like, cause you'll hear this and then like, it's night and day from like some of the wrestlers who don't have, some of the wrestlers that don't have that it factor on the mic. Like they sound really scripted and really like, you know, late 2009 MTV acting like that show Next. I'm going to win that damn championship. You better believe that. You can't handle me when I'm at my best. Shut up.
A big fan of hanging around studly guys with long hair and beards that smoke cigars and ride Harleys so that some of that can rub off on his little pansy-ass frame. So he takes that billionaire's money and he throws it around like water to buy guys that he can hang around with to prove that his Johnson is bigger than everybody else's. And that's the sole reason that the NWO guys are employed. I think, me personally, that it's about time that the wrestling fans and the promoters, all of them in this business, started recognizing guys like Nature Boy Ric Flair, like Arn Anderson, like Cactus Jack, guys who bust their ass, who work hard and have ability and have talent to get where they are, instead of a bunch of guys that get to their spot by hanging around with the boss and sucking up. I'm Jim Cornette, and that's my opinion. I'm Jim.
He was on fucking fire. Did they just give him segments back in the day where he could just, like, go off like that? Like, that's fire. LeMay just definitely got in front of the screen for like a good 3 minutes of like, yo, the oven is on.
Cornette, the views I'm about to express are my own, but as you'll see, they may be yours too. There's a man named Phil Mushnick who writes columns for the New York Post and for TV Guide. You've probably never heard of Mr. Mushnick, but you should, because he's had some pretty nasty things to say about you. You see, Phil Mushnick hates pro wrestling, and he's not content just to change the channel. He doesn't want you to be able to watch it either, not the WWF, WCW, ECW, nothing. And for the past several years, Mushnick has led a one-man campaign to have the wrestling industry abolished. Recently, when Ted Turner donated $1 billion to charity, Mr. Mushnick said the world would be better served if he closed up WCW.
It's kind of crazy that he was just like rattling off the promotion names back then. Was it just like, was it not taboo to admit that other fellas existed at the time? That just fucking flashbanged me. What's going on, Leroy Hard?
Phil Mushnick is the man who called for and spearheaded the media and publicity barrage over the federal indictment of Vince McMahon and the WWF on steroid charges. And even though McMahon and the WWF were proven totally innocent in a federal courtroom, Mushnick ignores that fact to this day and writes his columns as if it were a fact they were proven guilty just so he can continue his one-man crusade. He even wrote a column one time about the Madison Square Garden Network firing Marv Albert, saying that the Garden should cancel wrestling matches too. But Phil Mushnick not only hates wrestling, he hates wrestling fans. Here's a few things he's had to say about you, and I quote, "If not for America's lunatic fringe and the disaffected, WCW would be out of business. If you can tell me that you would bring an important child in your life to a pro wrestling match, I have no gripe with you because you clearly don't know right from wrong. And the overwhelming majority of the wrestling fans who contact me simply prove my point by flooding my mailbox with profanities, obscenities, and other acts that show them to be a disenfranchised subculture." Well, Mr. Mushnick, I'm a wrestling fan, and a lot of the people that read the New York Post and TV Guide are wrestling fans, too. And we don't enjoy being insulted by publications we pay money to read. We don't appreciate being told we don't know how to parent our children. We don't want a pompous, self-righteous man with a grudge sitting on top of Mount Olympus, looking down his nose at us and campaigning to take away the constitutional right that every American is guaranteed to freedom of speech, freedom of choice, and the freedom to enjoy whatever entertainment we choose. Those are facts, Mr. Mushnick, not rumors, not suppositions, but facts. You ought to try to deal in them sometime. And I think it's time that the millions of people that you belittle as subhuman every chance you get tell the New York Post and TV Guide what they think of you. But if this has been going on so long, why am I mad right now? Because recently, Phil Mushnick used Brian Pillman's death to call for another outcry against wrestling, and I quote once again, "The problem is the mainstream media don't look hard enough at pro wrestling. Imagine if middle-aged pro baseball players dropped dead on a regular basis. This would be page one stuff, and a federal inquiry would be launched." Well, Brian Pillman was a friend of mine. From the time he was born with throat cancer, he had the courage to undergo 36 different throat operations. He had the courage to withstand the punishment of pro football in 10 years as a pro wrestler. He had the courage to come back from a car wreck that shattered his ankle and from a lot of other personal tragedies. And then one night he went to sleep in a hotel room and he died. And for you, Phil Mushnick, To use his death as an excuse for another call to action in your one-man vendetta against pro wrestling is more vulgar and more obscene than anything that you've ever falsely accused the wrestling industry of being guilty of. So on behalf of the wrestling fans, the wrestling industry, the friends and family of Brian Pillman, and anyone in this country today that denies any one man the right to force his morals and his beliefs on all of us and take away our constitutional rights, on behalf of those people, I say go to hell, Phil Mushnick, and try to reform things down there, because we're doing just fine up here without you. I'm Jim Cornette, and that's my opinion.
There was no point for me to even try to interrupt any of that. He was on fucking fire, dude. Oh my goodness. To not even like stumble over any words, none of that? As fucking fired up as he would, dude. Oh hell no. I would not want to debate this motherfucker about anything. At all. Bro God, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you. Dude, Corny built different. Built different, dude. Hell yeah. Masterclass.
I'm Jim Cornette, and the views I'm about to express are yours. Well, some of them at least. Because in my last commentary, I told everyone about Phil Mushnick, the New York Post and TV Guide columnist who hates pro wrestling and doesn't think much more of the wrestling fans. Well, since that time, Mr. Mushnick's message board at the TV Guide website has been flooded with posts from outraged fans, and I'd like to read you excerpts from just a few of them. I've been a wrestling fan close to 21 years. I think your generalization of a sports fan is deplorable. As far as me being a knucklehead, everyone is entitled to their opinion, which is why I will no longer buy TV Guide or the New York Post. From a 12-year-old boy, I have found your remarks toward us wrestling fans immature, disrespectful, incompetent, and useless. From an attorney, please spare us from your personal jealousy of people who make more money than you do and write something meaningful. From a Christian whose parents took him to matches as a child, would you rather I spent those Saturday evenings drinking myself into a drunken stupor? How about vandalizing property? From another fan, gun control, poverty, and government reform should be priority in the Post, not wrestling. And another, I can't see it as anything but him stretching every story he possibly can to take a shot at wrestling and satisfy his vendetta. And another, here's a man who in 1998, Phil Mushnick he's talking about, will begin to rant about the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. It's pornography. God save my children. He'll broadcast his views in the New York Post, where there'll be ads for strip clubs, penile enlargement, and doctors who cure sexual dysfunction. And lastly, hey, Phil, you seem to be a man that lacks a life. Ever thought about kissing a girl or something? Well, I'd like to report that Phil Mushnick has gotten the message. I'd like to, but it's not true. Because listen to what Mr. Mushnick said on the internet on October 13th. I've badly overrated the intellect and social graces of most pro wrestling fans. They believe what they want to believe, think what they want to think, and have no regard for the truth. Not all, but most pro wrestling fans provide exactly what the wrestling industry covets: knuckleheads. Well, it's my view that the only opinion that doesn't make a difference is the one that goes unexpressed. People with similar opinions founded the United States of America and put a man on the moon. So if you're sick and tired of people giving you the sideways glance, looking down their nose at you, treating you like the guy that runs the Ferris wheel at the county fair just because you like wrestling or anything else in life, then stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Voice your opinion. Make a difference. Phil Mushnick is not the only target, but he's a fine place to start. So as they say in TV land, folks, keep those cards and letters coming. I'm Jim Cornette, and that's my opinion.
I wish I had somebody like Jim Cornette just going to bat for me. Like, what the fuck? What he just This man could be a lawyer if he wanted to. Like, why don't I have people this passionate about, like, the video games and shit I try to get? Because, like, these companies need, they fucking asses beat verbally. We need to send Jim Cornette because they canceled my fucking Wonder Woman game, okay? I'm still not over it. The Nintendo Switch do cost too much. I'm broke. I'm a broke ghost.
Jim Cornette, I just wonder if any of you are sick and tired as I am of people who claim to be the icon of wrestling. Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper claim to be the icon. Shawn Michaels is the icon that can still go. Bret Hart would claim to be the icon if he wasn't too busy crying about being screwed by the WWF. And I guess Randy Savage is still thinking. Well, Shawn Michaels is still the single most talented athlete in wrestling today inside the ring. But outside, he's an adolescent, obnoxious jerk who takes his tights and goes home if he doesn't get his way. Bret Hart is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but if he'd have been screwed as many times as he claims, he'd have struck oil by now. And Randy Savage is a legend, but let's face it, how many records did Frank Sinatra sell last year? But the pinnacle of this icon garbage came at last night's cage match between Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper to determine in their minds only who the real icon is. WCW had the gall to say this is the greatest cage match in history when it was only the greatest in 3 weeks since Hell in the Cell. But here you've got a 46-year-old bald movie star wannabe who looks like Uncle Creepy with a good build taking on a guy with an artificial hip that hadn't wrestled a full schedule in 10 years. It's a tribute to the massive egotism in my mind of both men and an indictment of WCW's promotional policies that this match even took place, much less being the main event when the card was probably the best that WCW is capable of having. By the 10-minute mark, they were sucking wind so bad, the first 3 rows passed out of oxygen deprivation. Would have been funny if it wasn't so sad. Well, I'm sick and damn tired of hearing guys claim to be the icon, especially when it usually comes from guys who just didn't know when to quit. Roddy Piper was my idol when I was a teenager, but that was 20 years ago. Hulk Hogan during his best years was 50% media creation, and those are long gone. This match was a slap in the face to every wrestler that takes pride in his profession. And in my mind, no one man is bigger than this sport. But if there is an icon, it would be a man who has great ability inside the ring and professionalism and maturity outside of it. Let's leave all the petty backstabbing I make more money than you BS with the hat check girl and concentrate on talent and attitude. The Undertaker, Ric Flair, and Steve Austin have never claimed to be icons, which means they're big candidates to be just that. And on a personal note to Hulk Hogan,
he did name some big names. Dude, he has to be reading a fucking teleprompter or something that's moving like a million miles a minute. I am fucking blown away that he is this articulate when he is just shooting, bro. Holy shit. No filter corny. He's corny in the best way. Like, this is corny with the E in there. My goodness.
you are a household word, but so is garbage, and it stinks when it gets old too. I'm Jim Cornette, and that's my opinion.
Well, the WWF has asked me to do a commentary on the state of wrestling in 1998. I guess they figured Cornette's always good for a couple of laughs. Well, I'm not really going to be too funny tonight. Because, you see, I think the state of wrestling in 1998 stinks. I think WCW stinks. I think the NWO stinks. I think ECW is embarrassing. And I think the WWF stinks. And
Yo, he not afraid to just bug out. What the fight?
I'll tell you why, you don't have to go back any further than last week on Raw. You got a guy coming out dressed like a Christmas tree. You got a woman coming out dressed like a reindeer. You got two adolescent mullet heads showing their butt cheeks on national TV and having a phony match for a championship. I think it stinks. I think it's disgusting. I think nobody has any respect for wrestling anymore. Where is wrestling? Not sports entertainment, but wrestling. You know, just a couple of years ago, I left my home in Tennessee and I moved to Connecticut, which is like trading a Hawaiian vacation for a bed in a cancer ward, to come to work for the WWE.
You can't. Jim. 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 Oh, Jesus. Chill out.
WWF full-time, the biggest wrestling promotion in the history of the planet. And I moved to Connecticut with snow on the ground 7 months out of the year, real estate prices that would make Donald Trump's hair stand on end, the rudest bunch of people I've ever seen where English is a second language and traffic jams at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I think that's okay because I'm with the biggest wrestling promotion of all time, the WWF. But over the last couple of years, I don't see any wrestling. They got some great wrestlers around here, but they don't have any time to wrestle because of all the falderall and the nonsense going on. You see what the problem
is? Hey, hey. He could be talking about any era right now. That is still true to this day.
is the people running the two big promotions. One guy is a game show host wannabe from Minneapolis with phony teeth, phony hair, and a phony tan. And running the WWF, you got a whole office building full of Yankees from New York City that wouldn't know a wrestling match if it bit them. So they sit around all day listening to people on the internet, and the people on the internet wouldn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. I don't particularly care what some Yankee from New York City wants to see. I want to see wrestling matches with wrestlers. I want to see real old-fashioned wrestling. I want to see some people who have some respect for the traditions of the wrestling industry, have some respect for the sport of wrestling. I don't want to see sports entertainment and flying donkeys all around. I think it's garbage, I think it's insulting, and I think it's a shame to a fine sport like this. Down south where I come from, they know wrestling. They were brought up on it. They grew up on it, and they respect it. And I think it's about time that the promoters in the wrestling industry today recognize that wrestling fans watching a wrestling program want to see wrestlers wrestle. That's easy. It's not too hard to understand if you just think about it. But the problem is that nobody has any respect for tradition. Well, I got news for you. I got respect for tradition, and I've always been associated with real good old-fashioned wrestling, a sport of wrestling, not a circus sideshow, not a cartoon show, and if nobody else is going to bring some wrestling around here, then maybe it's going to be up to Jim Cornette. So that might be my New Year's resolution for 1998. I might bring some tradition, I might bring some real wrestling back and clear this whole mess out because I think it stinks. So there's my address, there's my opinion, there's my commentary. Do with it what you want. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, bah humbug, I'm out of here.
Fantastic. Looking like a fucking bizarro Drew Carey. I would be that passionate if I had a hairline that looked like that too. I would. Fantastic speaker, dude. 10 out of 10. See, I feel like having Jim Cornette as your manager is like maybe a step below Paul Heyman, but you're still good. You're still in good hands. Have we ever had a Heyman versus Corny off? Like, have we ever had that? I'd like that. That sounds cool. I want that. Fan-fucking-tastic. And yes, I'm well aware that he has a podcast. And he does shit like this all the time. I'm well aware, guys. Step below Heyman was still on the podium. I think he would eat a lot of people alive. I do not want to see a wrestling match between those two. Respectfully. Ew. I do not want to see that. That is gross. But yes, I've come to respect this fucking fixture in wrestling. If you guys missed that video that we watched, the fucking bump that he took, I definitely laughed my ass off for like a good 4 minutes. It was in the Devon video, which might be a Patreon exclusive if YouTube beat my ass for it. There's people in that tier, Mac. I definitely think there's people in that tier. That CM Punk fucking flow state, we're going crazy tier. Yeah. I love it though. I fucking love it. Being able to do this one take for what we know on a live show apparently, like with no teleprompter, just off the hit, enunciating every word, you making it through that shit a light, just that's a fucking talent. Yeah, either way, if you want to hang out with me in the flock and react to content with us live, guys, you know where to find that link. It's at the very bottom of the description. You guys can click the top link if you want to support the original uploader of this compilation. Again, if you saw any weird edits or any strange things going on with the screen, I probably had to do that to avoid getting flagged for copyright shit. There's a Patreon that has a free tier with a bunch of bonus content that I could not upload to YouTube. So if you want more Cratewraith content for whatever reason, and I haven't fucking spoken your ears off just yet, click that link. Go ahead. It's free. Don't worry. Thank you so much to those of you that have made it over to the Patreon. I appreciate you.
I'm still hungry.